Hi, I'm Dave Correa, and I'm going to show you how I mounted a Giclee print onto a piece of wood. This isn't a print on wood, it's a print on archival paper with archival inks, and I adhered it onto this routed wood shape. And I'm going to go through all the steps, and I'm going to show you that right now. All right, so at first I was able to get all these wooden shapes cut out by a friend who has a CNC router at a sign shop. This wood is exterior grade sign wood. It's medium density overlay, MDO. It's half inch. It's really strong. It's really straight, but it's layered up pieces of wood. So I had to use joint compound to fill in some of the little cracks and divots that weren't super smooth. And then the router blade itself wasn't the smoothest thing, so I went around and I sanded every little bit to get the sides nice and smooth. And of course, you don't want to paint on raw wood, so I used Liquitex Gesso, and I gessoed all the raw wood on the sides. After the wood was sanded, this paint really helped smooth out any kind of divots or little misshapings on the side there. This is a pretty important part because you can't really paint on raw wood. And since I was going to paint the sides black, I didn't want to paint just on the raw spot. So the gesso is definitely important. And I was able to wipe off any excess paint on the face and the back of the panel. I skipped the part where I painted the sides, but I just used a black primer for that spot, black prime spray paint. It was pretty easy, pretty quick. I was able to paint them all at once. And then I made a little rig for the wood shape to fit into. This was to help the wood shape stay in place for when I was going to apply the print on in this next step here. So this is the Giclee print on paper. It's printed on a velvet fine art paper with archival inks. The print quality is outstanding. It just looks really, really good. It looks just like the painting, the oil painting that I had originally scanned. I was really happy with how these prints came out, and I added a little bit of extra black to the edge because I'm going to have to cut that area off once the print is adhered to the wood. So in this step, I was able to lay down the print on top of the wood, and I used a flashlight to see where the wood edge was in relationship to the registration on the print. And once the print was in the right spot, I taped it down on the sides and bottom there, and those will become my registration marks. Once I cut the tape, I was able to. That would help me line it up later. It's the best way I found to get a perfect registration. So, as you can see now, that tape on the paper and the tape on the wood panel on the bottom there, once I line them up, they'll be perfect registration. Now, to adhere the print to the wood, I used an acrylic matte medium. I had to do some research for this. I found other people who had done prints on adhering paper to wood, and hands down, this was the best application for it. It wasn't too expensive. I think it was like $15 for that jar there, and what I found is it's better to use more matte medium than less. So I put on a pretty generous amount. I try to make sure I got it all over there, even the corners of the horns there. That was the one part that kind of got tripped up a couple times. But these thick coats with a big brush really did the trick. And you can see that some of the matte medium drips onto the sides, but that's actually really easy to clean up. You can either wipe it up as you go, or once it dries, I was able to scrape it off the sides pretty easily. So, and once I figured that out, I put even thicker amounts of matte medium on because I just didn't care if it went onto the sides there. And it doesn't dry really quickly, so I had lots of workability time here. There's actually no drying time on the side of the bottle, so but it stayed wet for a while. And so then I get the print and I put it onto the panel there, and as you can see, I'm using the tape on the sides as registration. If I can line those up perfectly, then I know that the print is just in the perfect spot on top of that wooden panel. And I never want to touch the face of the print because I don't want fingerprints, scratches, anything. So wax paper protects it as I use this squeegee to push down and smooth out the paper on top of the board. I want to make sure that I push down every spot that has matte medium in between it. And I definitely don't want to rub that across the face of the print. So the wax paper is a very important part of this process. And then, you want to be able to put even pressure on top of the print as it dries. And I found like this really heavy piece of masonite, masonite. And I put some weight on it. I actually ended up putting 2 of those plates on there, 2 of those 25-pound plates. And after a day, it did the trick. Okay, so this is 1 day later. I gave it a good 24 hours to cure. Like I said, I didn't have a drying time on the jar, so I just erred on the safe side. It's acrylic, so it probably dries quicker than that. But as you can see, I pick it up from the sides. I never try and pull the paper. I don't want to pull the paper off the print. But I just touch the sides, the wood there, and I can just tell by looking at the sides that it is even all the way around. There's no paper that's coming up. So yeah, it's good. It went down really, really nicely. There's no air bubbles, no creases, nothing. And these are the tools I'm using next. This is the very finessing part of it. I got scissors, X-Acto knife with plenty of clean blades. That's a very important part, is having lots of sharp blades as you go, because you're going to change them up pretty quickly. A soft brush, very, very soft brush. It's the softest brush in my collection. I'll be using that to wipe away paper dust. Some fine sandpaper, very fine sandpaper. This sandpaper right here is 1500. It's very, very smooth. And then, just little detailing sand. That's a sandpaper stick. And then this kind of dental looking tool that'll help me scrape off any excess matte medium. Okay. And so the first step is to basically start chipping away at the sides here. I got to get rid of all that white. I got to make sure it cuts to the edge. So just using my scissors, I do a general cut all the way around the head. And it's a pretty rough cut. I just don't want to have lots of overlap as I work with these fine tools. So cut out the white, and then I'm able to go in with my finer tools. Oh yeah, this is where I never touch the print. I always use my brush to wipe off any paper dust. My fingers will never touch the print because I don't want to scratch anything. So as you can see in the back there's still about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch overhang on that paper. And that's the part I'll be working on in this next step. I'm going to get it as close as possible. It's going to take a couple times, but I'll be using my X-Acto knife here, and I'll also be using the sandpaper. And the black has a bleed to it, meaning that it extends past the edge of the wood. And what I'll do here is I fold the paper back a little bit just to see where the crease is, and I run the blade along the edge of the wood. And I do it at a slight angle because I don't want there to be a lip that hangs of paper that hangs over the edge of the wood. And even this first cut, it's close, but it's not super close. And that white you're seeing there is the thickness of the paper. This paper is thick. I don't have an exact grain count right now, but it's pretty thick. So you're not seeing the wood, and you're not seeing the face of the paper being cut. You're just seeing the edge of the paper there. And then I'll go in a couple times. And because the edge of the wood is so thick and so nice, and the blades of the X-Acto knife are so sharp, I'm able to get really, really close. And I keep running my finger across it to see if there's any paper overhanging on top of the wood, and I just do that over and over again until I get it nice and flush. And basically, I just go around the whole thing. I think this, I go around twice. You'll see me pass twice, and I'll do one general cut that gets me really, really, really close. And on the second pass, I'll change the blade, and I'll use sandpaper to file the edge down, so it just gets it right flush against there. It's so smooth. And yeah, as you can see, there's some scuffing, but all that scuffing is on the wood. It's where the blade nicked the black primer off. It's the edge of the paper. The face of the print itself is in perfect condition. And I'll use ink to go in and do my final color on the side there. And the ink is really nice. It's actually Sumi ink, and it covers really well. It goes right into the edge of the paper, and it dyes it almost the same color as the print on top. And I also brush the entire side of the panel down too. So this goes over the black primed paint as well. This is actually a very satisfying part. It feels like this is the part where it all feels like it's coming together. The print just looks so much nicer with the sides blackened like that. It just has like such a cool kind of classy look. This is like the home stretch. And it goes on really nicely. Sometimes I'll give it another coat. I'll wait for it to dry because when it's wet, it's very shiny, and sometimes you can miss parts you haven't hit. So I'll let it dry for about 20 minutes, and then I'll eyeball it and see how it looks once it's done. But as you can see, I mean, it looks good. You almost can't even tell where the print in the print paper and the wood start and stop. Yeah, I'm really happy how these came out. And then I sign them. This is also a nice little satisfying part of the process too. I decided to make this an edition of 20. I think I'll start there, and maybe my next one I'll change edition size, or I don't know, maybe not. These are the kind of things I do on a whim, so it's nice to have 20, a little low number to start out with. And of course, I put some hanging hardware on top there for you, so you don't have to shove a drill on it and everything. So yeah, these prints come ready to go. Yeah, and thank you for watching this video, this process video, and how I made this. I'm really happy how these came out. This is my first time doing something like this, so it was definitely a experience for me, definitely a positive one. I hope that you pick up one of these prints. They're very important to me, and they'll look beautiful on your wall. Thank you so much.